Hi, what's going on, y'all? So we're gonna do something different. We're gonna make a different video. I bought this engine off Facebook, which was probably a big no-no. Marketplace, couldn't find one. I needed one, a 20R. This is a 20R that we've got. Paid $600 for it. I wasn't happy, but I had no choice. Well, we always have a choice, but I wanted the engine, but I wasn't happy. So what I need to do is, I didn't get to hear it run when I bought it. I don't know if it ran. When I drained the oil, when I got it home, the oil was milky, like there was water in it. So that could be a number of things, but we're gonna assume, I don't like assuming because it makes an ass of you and me, but we're gonna assume that the engine runs. We need to know the strength of the engine. So we're gonna do a compression test and we're gonna do a leak down test. Compression test is gonna tell us if all four cylinders are within a range. For argument's sake, let's say this engine is supposed to have 120 PSI per cylinder, right? We know it's got mileage on it. Let's say the first cylinder we do has 110. We want all other cylinders to read 110, or you get what I'm saying, either 100, all four 100, or 150, all four 150. So we're gonna verify compression. Once we've got compression verified, we gotta pull the rocker shaft off and the timing chain off, and we're gonna do a leak down on it. So here we go. Hope you got all that. So we kinda need to cheat. The engine hasn't been ran in who knows how long. Piston walls are dry, cylinder walls. The valves are dry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some WD-40 and I'm gonna spray it in all the intake valve side and the exhaust side, and then I'm gonna spray WD-40 in the combustion chamber, and I'm just gonna spin the engine over by hand just to kind of lube things up so it'll seal a little bit better. It's kind of cheating. You need to, because everything's bone dry inside the engine, and you don't want a bone dry engine when you do a compression test and a leak down test. Just gonna spray in each, a little bit. Get some oil in there. Now we're gonna do the intake side, all over the valve, and we're gonna spin the engine over by hand. Can't hurt to spray everything, so a little more, a little bit more, a little bit more. More so for the combustion chamber. Now we're gonna spin her over by hand, just to lube, get that wall, this piston walls lubed up. Combustion chamber, nicey nice. Get the valves so they'll seat better. I'll let it sit for a little bit. I gotta pause the video and get the chain set up. Oh, who's that over there? That's my son. Joseph, say hi.
How's it going, guys?
Joey's gonna power the starter up, and we're gonna see how much compression is in each cylinder.
All right.
Excellent. 150, 150. Actually, it was 155. That's excellent. Surprisingly. Ready? Mm-hmm. 150. It took a little bit to get up. So we had 150 in our first cylinder, and we got 150 in our second cylinder. It took a little bit of cranking to get it up. That's, again, because the cylinder is dry, the valves are dry, but the bottom line is it built 150 PSI in the number 2 cylinder. So now we're gonna go ahead and do number 3. 160 PSI. They're all around the same, 160 PSI. That's awesome. So far we got 3 good cylinders. Fingers crossed, and it'll be winner, winner, chicken dinner on the 4th. Hold on, let me get this in. Go ahead. That's awesome. 160 PSI, all 4 cylinders. That is fantastic. All right. It's hot. I had to shut the fan off because I don't want to make too much noise, mess up the camera. So I'm going to spin the camera around in a minute. I want to show you something, why I wasn't happy and why I'm going through all this testing. It's actually a really good practice to be doing these kind of things. For one, because if you buy an engine and you plan on tearing it apart and you don't know anything about it, first thing you want to do is compression test. Is the engine good, number one? Then you want to do a leak down test. Does all the cylinders hold pressure? And tomorrow when we do it, I'm going to show you my gauge. I have a snap-on gauge. It's actually really cool. It tells you if it's like strong, weak, or poor, depending on how much air is leaking out of the cylinders. So I don't know if you can see that. See how it looks kind of mucky? It could also be the oil that I sprayed in there, but that's not good. That's no good. I have no oil pan on it, which is no big deal. We ain't worried about building up oil pressure because we're doing a compression test. When I bought the engine, I was a little upset when I got it home and I pulled the oil, draining the oil. But this is a sure way of knowing the strength of your engine. Compression test, leak down test. So I verified compression in a manual. Compression should be 156 pounds, so we're good. So now what we're gonna do is do a leak down, rocker assembly off, and give it a test. Once we verify leak down, I'm gonna remove the head, and I'm gonna have the head cleaned and resurfaced and put new, have the springs checked out and put new valve seals in them because we don't want it leaking. We're gonna use this head 100%. The bottom end of the block is temporarily. We're gonna use a 22R along with this head to create a hybrid. So let's get it. All right, guys, I got the timing chain off. The teeth, they feel really sharp. You can see the wear marks in them. I hold it close to the camera. This is what I was saying about earlier, about the play in the timing chain. So who knows when this was changed. That's kind of why we're doing it also. So now that I got the timing chain off, we're gonna go ahead and do a leak down test. So in order to do a leak down test, you need your valves to be stuck closed. You can't have any rotation in the engine. Once you blow air into the cylinder, the air is gonna wanna force the piston down naturally, and it's gonna cause the valves to rotate. Sorry. So with that being said, that's why I removed the timing chain so we can blow air into the cylinders and not have to worry about the valves opening or closing. All right, so this here is my leak down tester. We're gonna go ahead and use this. Use 100 PSI into the cylinder. Low means that there's low leakage. High means that there's high leakage. Valves not seated properly. We know the engine's got great compression. More than likely it's gonna have low leak down, but we're gonna test it anyway for the video purposes. So that's gonna do it for this video. We knew that the head was coming off anyway to get cleaned and get new valves either put in, new springs put in, basically rebuild the head. Valve seats, I have a machine shop that I'm gonna drop it off to. So Monday, I can go ahead and do that now, and we can get this motor back together because pretty soon we're gonna be putting it on the frame. So these are kind of the things that you have to mentally prepare yourself. Okay, my body is basically ready to go on the chassis. So now I've got to start painting the chassis, getting everything cleaned up, finished up, so I can bolt the body to the chassis. But before I do that, obviously we're going to assemble the chassis. And part of assembling the chassis is installing the engine on the chassis. So we want to install the engine complete. So meaning transmission mated to it, clutch installed on it, all the accessories on it, get everything set up on the chassis. So you can see how it's cycling through. She's in the green. And again, the engine doesn't have oil coating in the rings. We kind of forced it to. So green is good. I'm gonna air it up. So this is telling me that the valve is stuck. Could be rust around the valve seat. Be any one of these factors. I hear air coming out. Show you. You hear the air coming out of the cylinder? That means the valve's leaking. The seat's leaking. Nothing on the exhaust side. So the intake side, so the exhaust side is leaking. And you can hear the rings. The rings aren't seated properly. Yeah, so now, once I remove the head, I'm gonna send it out. Probably gonna take a week or so. In that time, I can clean up the frame and get the frame ready to start assembling. So once the frame is painted, I gotta flip it upside down, I gotta weld a few spots. Once I'm done with that, then I can start assembling the frame, motor in it, tranny, all that stuff, accessories, exhaust. You get the picture where I'm going with this. That's how you have to start thinking, what's next? What's next? What's like playing a game of chess? What's next? And there you go. So you get your body done. Body's all solid, ready to go. Now you work on your chassis, get your chassis all together. Once your chassis is all together, you mate the two together and you start assembling. So, all right, guys, so I want to point something out. I am by no means an engine expert. I have this much knowledge, enough to get me by with engines. So we did a compression test. Our compression test was great. We did a leak down test. We knew our cylinder head needs some work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the cylinder head off, get it to a professional, which I have a shop about a half hour away from me. Let him do work on the cylinder head, new valves, valve guides, valve seals, angle job, all that good stuff. Slight milling to resurface for new gaskets. Oh. Amazing. Well, head gasket doesn't look terrible. Then again, I'm not an expert at examining head gaskets. See all the muck? Why is there all that muck? I wonder if water, see? We're gonna clean all this up. Get a light, look down the cylinder walls. Still got cross hatches from a hone. Don't know if it was the original hone. I don't know if you could see in there. See them cross hatches. Cylinder walls don't look bad. there aren't any gouges in the number 1 and the number 4 cylinder. I bent the stud, which I think I had to replace anyway because I think it was broke. But yeah, it's not terrible. So we'll get it cleaned up, make it look nice. Our head doesn't look the greatest, but that's why it's going to go to a machine shop and get cleaned and all the work done to it. So guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all learned something from it. By no means am I an engine expert. I know just this enough to get me through for diagnosing and troubleshooting. And then I let a professional handle it, and then we can assemble it back together. So, the leak down wasn't the greatest. We had a few valves that had some probably crud on it, rust on the valve seats. So I'm just coating it, and then I'm going to rotate the engine around to work it in really good. I just don't want any issues with my cylinders later on down the road because I didn't, put any kind of rust penetrating inside the cylinders. All right, so now that we've cleaned everything as best as possible, getting ready to store it, I'm just going to coat it one last time. And we're going to cover the engine up. And it'll be ready for when we're ready to assemble it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Man, them signs look so good. Oh, and check this out. My brother hooked me up from O'Reilly's. I'm working on getting sponsored by them. I got a nice cup holder, magnetic. I got some magnetic tool holders. So, with all seriousness, do me a favor. Please consider subscribing to the channel. 40% of the viewers are not subscribed. 50% of you are subscribed. That would actually really help me out tremendously. Probably, gain another 200 or so subs, 300 subs. Just from you guys doing that. Simple. Boop. Hit that button. Hit that subscribe button. I know this might not be your cup of tea, the Samurai, but it doesn't mean this is all that I do. So you'll see over time. Time will show everything. Thank you guys for checking out this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay classy. Talk to y'all tomorrow.